Hello everybody and welcome. In this video, what we're going to go over is all the different count formulas that Microsoft Excel has to offer. Now, I've grouped them into 4 different categories. The first is going to be the everyday count functions. So this is your count as well as your count A. The second grouping is the ghost hunter. So this is count blank. The third, this is the powerhouse. So this includes COUNTIF as well as COUNTIFS. And then the fourth and final, we're going to do a modern spin on it where we're going to put the unique formula embedded within a count A formula. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on in the video. So with that being said, let's get into today's lesson. Hello everybody and welcome to today's lesson. What we're going to look at first is what I like to call the everyday count formulas. So that includes count as well as count A. Now for count, this will only count cells which have numeric value. So I'll show you that in this formula here. So you can see it's only returning 7 because in the data set that I have here, so I have the order number, the store, as well as the sales. You'll notice that the South store, we don't know the sales just yet, so it's returning missing. So because we have 3 cells that are denoted as missing and count only counts the numeric values, it's giving us a return value or a return count of 7. Now for count A, that's different. It doesn't just return numeric values, it returns anything as long as the cell is not blank, right? So whether it's numeric, alphabetical, or a symbol. So let me show you. If I go here and I type count A, it's going to result in 10. One thing to call out here, let's go on row 7. Here, let's say the if error, instead of missing, let's say it's a blank, right? You can see the count A doesn't change. It still says 10 because the cell actually has a content within it, right? So even though there's a blank in there, the formula is there, which means that there isn't a blank within the cell. Now, the second grouping of count formulas, it's the one formula. I like to call this the ghost hunter. It's the count blank. What it does, it looks at your data and any cells that have been left blank, it will count them, right? So this is great for auditing purposes. Let's say you're expecting a certain amount of cells to all have values within them, right? If they do not have values in there, let's say they're left blank, then you know that you have 1 or 2 cells or whatever many it is that you have to go and fill in, right? So I'll show you how this works here. And we have the exact same data that we had in the count as well as the count A example. But let's say for the South store, instead of putting missing, let's say we don't put a formula at all because we know we don't have the data yet. So I'm going to delete. Right? So all 3 of those South stores, I'm going to delete. Now I'm going to go count blank. And because I have 3 blanks here, it's going to return 3. Now, I do want to show you something. Let's go back to row 7. I'm going to drag my formula. I'm going to put it back. Now, because there isn't a blank in there, now we have missing. Now you can see my count blank goes to 2. Right? But let's say I update my if error to get rid of missing and just have a blank in there. You can see there that the count blank goes back to 3. So this is a little bit different than count A. Whereas if the cell is blank, it doesn't matter if there's actually nothing in there or if there is a formula, but if it is returning a blank, it will count the blank. So that's one thing to call out. Now, before we move on to the powerhouse count formulas, there is one thing that I'd like to talk to you about first. Today's sponsor of the video is me. Just in case you don't already know, I have a Microsoft Excel course in which you could go from 0 to hero in Microsoft Excel. I have over 100 different lecture videos individually bookmarked so that you can learn at your own pace. So for example, if you'd like to know about VLOOKUPs, I have a couple of videos on VLOOKUP. If it's pivot tables that you're after, I have an entire chapter on pivot tables. So if you'd like to accelerate your knowledge and go from beginner to pro in Microsoft Excel, my course is the course for you, and the link is in the comment section below. Now let's get back into the video. Welcome back, everybody. What we're going to look at now is what I like to refer to as the Powerhouse count formulas. So that would be COUNTIF as well as COUNTIFs. So you see my data here. It is expanded to now include product as well as the zone. And COUNTIF as well as COUNTIFs, what this will do, it will count based on the number of criterias that you input. And I'll show you how to do that. So for COUNTIF, this is more straightforward as we're only looking at one criteria. So let's say under column B, we want the different stores. If I just want north, right, you could see that I have 3 north orders. So it returns a value of 3. Now, you don't actually have to type in north. I could come in here and I could put my cursor on a cell which has north. You hit F4 on that, right? And it'll still give you that return of 3. Now, for COUNTIFs, this is when you have multiple criterias, right? So in this particular case, you could see north orders plus sardine purchases plus zone 1. So I'm going to go here under column B. That's my criteria range 1. I'm going to type in north. And then for criteria range 2, I'm going to type in sardines. And then for criteria range 3, I want zone 1, right? So you can see that 2 line items meet this criteria. So it gives us a count of 2. So that would be on row 2 as well as row 10. I'll highlight that for you so that you could easily see it. And then one final thing to call out here, instead of using COUNTIF in my first example, you could always just use COUNTIFs. This makes it easier if down the road you want to add more criteria. You don't have to completely redo the formula. And I'll show you what I mean here. So let's say COUNTIFs. I just want north. I could come here and I could do that using the COUNTIFs formula as well, right? And then down the road, of course, I could add more criteria if I need to. Now, the fourth and final, I'm going to put a modern twist on the count formula, and that's using the unique function. So the unique function, this was introduced by Microsoft Excel in 2018, so it's fairly new. Let me show it to you. Let's say under column B, right, we have the different store listings, but there's only 4 stores in total. We have north, south, east, and west. If I use a count A, it's going to give me 10. However, if I use unique formula, it's going to list all the stores that are unique. So if I use unique, you could see it lists them all, north, south, east, and west. So if we go and take a look at what I was talking about just earlier for count A, right? If I do a regular count A formula, it's going to return 10. But I don't want that in this particular case. What I want here is the unique stores under column B. So the way to do that, you go equals count A, open bracket, unique. Close bracket, and there you can see that it gives you that unique count, which is 4 stores. So this brings us to the end of today's lesson, but before we end the video, let's go to the outro first. Hello everybody and welcome. This brings us to the end of the video. I'd like to hear from you in the comments section below. Let me know what you think. Did I cover everything that Microsoft Excel has to offer in terms of the count formulas? I'd be curious to see if you have anything different than what I've included. Also, if you did enjoy today's video, if you could smash the like button, I would really appreciate it. And if you like the overall content that I'm doing in this channel, if you could subscribe, that would help me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Like I always say, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. And as always, keep fit and have fun.